I'm here with Concordia head softball coach Shawn Semler to preview the upcoming 2019 season. As we record it, it's about a month out from the first official games of the season. You've been actually on the job since the summertime as head coach at Concordia. What have you seen during that time that's maybe confirmed the excitement you had about the opening when you saw it here at Concordia?
Yeah, right when I got here and started meeting all the players and some of the new incoming freshmen, there was just an energy level and that everybody wanted to hear, what my thoughts were, and I feel like they all just jumped on board. Like they were like, let's go, let's get ready to go, and it's a group that's kind of hungry to not push away last year, but from a record-wise, the 21-21 I don't think sat well with a lot of them, and they're just excited to get rid of that record and try to start something new here at Concordia.
Well, we kind of discussed where things were at in October after the fall season. There seemed like a really solid fall season. But what maybe there've been some holiday breaks kind of since then, but what are some of the main things that have been accomplished in the kind of the late fall and over some of these winter months?
Sure, and we used fall ball in my thought process. We used fall ball I would just want to see them play. I just go out and play. There's no signs. We didn't do a whole lot schematically. We just watched them play, and so I was excited just to see where they were at, and then from there we took those little things that we saw and went into individual practices and mainly in the batting cage and just trying to teach some of the things that we're going to have them do and really emphasize what our philosophy offensively is, and so they could work on it throughout those months before the breaks. And so I think they did a great job, and I think what I found was there's a lot of kids that will go out on their own and work and take everything that is told to them, and then they incorporated it into their individual practices.
Well, I know depth has been mentioned as kind of a strength for this team. A lot of girls who are capable of starting for this team. What other strengths have you seen emerge so far?
Yeah, and depth is crazy. In fact, it's I've never had this kind of depth before. In that there's kids that probably won't go to Tucson with us, but come April might be huge impact players for us, and so that's going to be really one of those things that we have to figure out is how we envision Tucson going, and then going forward, having kids that come into that program or come into that varsity lineup and still make an impact. But after depth, we're solid. Our leadership has been really, really good, and we've got some strong seniors that really have taken hold of this and really want to run with this, and that's exciting as a coach to see that. Pitching should be strong. We've got some philosophies going. We've got some ideas going on how we want to use our pitching staff this year. Probably a little bit different than they've used them in the past, but I think we should be pretty strong. 4 or 5 deep probably. 1, 2, and 3 really, really deep, and then our 4 and 5 aren't too far behind them, so that's exciting from the coaching standpoint. And then just a lineup. One of the strengths is going to be, we put 9 kids out that can hit in the lineup, and as I'm scouting other teams and looking at other teams, most teams have a drop off in 7, 8, and 9. I think people are going to be surprised at our 7, 8, and 9 and how talented they are.
Well, your first year in a new place, you kind of inherit the team that you get, but what can you say about how maybe some of the relationships and in that aspect is developing right now? Yeah,
you know what, I don't know if I can get the kids out of my office sometimes, which I love. I love them coming and seeing me and just listening to me and talking and hearing them too. But those relationships are ongoing, and I feel like it's new to me with how many kids we have on our roster, but I've really tried to embrace that, and I think all of them have been in my office I don't know how many times, and just talking about philosophies and thoughts and what they need to work on, and so that's been really nice. I really enjoy that part of it. So.
Well, there are a large number of key players back. In what ways do you lean on some of those experienced players when you're entering your first year in a program?
Yeah, we're going to have to. We're strong up the middle, and anytime we start practices and things like that, which we'll start here Monday, is really showing them what I want and having them become teachers as well and really model what we want to do as a team to the younger kids or to the new kids. And so I'll really probably show those older kids in a group setting what I want and what I expect of them, and then they need to then in turn be teachers and coaches themselves, and so we can really get everybody on board on the same page.
I don't know if you actually name captains on your teams, but who are some of those people maybe that you've been impressed with in those leadership type of roles? Yeah,
I've never really traditionally, said who are captains. Usually those kids just kind of step up, but Jamie and Leah up the middle, and even Mac in center field. Those have kind of been our three most vocal leaders and the ones that have kind of stepped up.
We talked a little bit about Hannah Harrow in the fall, how she really kind of exceeded what you were hoping to see from her at your first look. How can you expand upon on that and just what you've noticed from her?
Yeah, I was thinking about things like Hannah on my way in, even this morning, and just some of the things that I love about her. I feel like, and I said this to Alicia the other day, is teams are going to see her at third base, and if they don't know her, or maybe if they do know her even, in scouting a lot of teams, we've got a lot of teams that want to drag bunt and want to push bunt and want to try to use their speed. And I think they're going to find that Hannah isn't really the one that they really want to pick on, because nothing that anybody shows her is something that she hasn't seen before in her high school days and her summer club team days. And so she's just good. Like, you don't have to worry so much about her. She's just she's softball smart. She's going to see the same things we see. We'll talk over before games on who their faster kids are and who the kids that like to try to drag. And I won't have to do much more than that. She'll see it on our scouting sheet, and then she'll just take care of it. Where a lot of kids, you're like, hey, remember, this is the girl. We're going to tell her once, and she'll be all over it. And she'll probably even tell us who the ones are. So that's what I love about her is she's very, very softball smart.
Well, you've mentioned some of the players around the diamond a little bit. As you think about that more, how comfortable do you feel with where things are at, as far as if you were setting a lineup for tomorrow, or right, how much does that still have to play out?
I'm a lineup guy, so I write lineups all the time. And Coach Barkle and I were talking. I had this lineup that I wrote, and I loved it. I was in love with this lineup. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. You probably couldn't steer me against it. And then the next day I had a different one that I was just as much in love with. And so I think it's really coming around. I think we've got a few spots right now that there's going to be still a pretty good battle this next month and a half, looking for some spots. But it's a pretty good lineup top to bottom, and it's going to be one of those things where if it's between two people, I'm probably going to be pretty comfortable with either one of them, because they're that good. So it'll be interesting to see who kind of pushes themselves in front of the other one over this next month and a half.
Well, of course, there's always newcomers that enter into the equation. I think people that are familiar with softball locally know people like Camry Moore and Kylie Nixon. What role does the class of newcomers play?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Camry and Kylie, you can't help but love those two. I mean, they're softball kids, And so we've actually, in talking to Kylie, are going to get her out of the catching spot. And I loved her at catcher. When we played against her, when I was coaching against her in high school, I just loved her tenacity. I loved just the way she played the game, and catching was a big part of that. But in looking at the future and looking at what we have, she's going to be a great middle infielder. And so we're trying to maybe make that switch right now and get her out there and get her some time in one of the spots up at shortstop or second. And then Camry Moore is just as solid as it gets. But she's one of those that is going to do great things for us in the circle and offensively. And I've really played around with where I want her to bat in the lineup because she's got a strong bat. So she'll be just as important to us offensively as she is in the circle.
Well, you already mentioned it. The team last year went 21-21 overall and picked 5th in the preseason conference poll this year. But I think there's a feeling that there is talent to maybe do more. What are reasonable expectations as you sit here in the preseason?
Right. In looking at the conference and really scouting other teams, there's some solid teams in this conference. I mean, you look at Midland, who was picked number 1, and they were in the national tournament and lost like 7-9 in extra innings to the team that finished 3rd in the country. So, I mean, they're right on that verge, and they didn't lose anybody. In fact, they gained a pitcher out of Millard South who's pretty talented herself. And then Northwestern lost some kids, but they won the conference tournament last year, and they're strong, they're talented. And then Morningside's always in it, and Jamestown, who's probably the highest ranked returning team in our conference, who just added to our conference. But they didn't lose anybody either from a team that finished 18th in the country. So we've got our work cut out for us. But I think with what we have, we're going to surprise some people. And I had us, if you really looked at an outside looking in and tried to say, okay, Dolan's got this many returning all-conference players and so forth, we would probably have ended up like 7th. So I think some teams kind of realize that maybe we're going to be a little bit better than that. And I've talked to a couple of the coaches who are like, I think you guys could be playing for something very special. And I agree with that. It's just we're going to have to find out if we can learn how to win games against those teams that are traditional powers in our conference, whereas maybe last year, they either split with them or got beat right at the end, and we're going to really have to learn how to win those games and really believe in ourselves. And I think if we do that, it could be a pretty good year.
Well, the last thing here, I know we're focused on the upcoming season, but coaches always have to be preparing for future seasons as well in recruiting, and it sounds like things have gone well on that front, but what kind of update can you provide there? I know you're eager to get some of your former Waverly High School players in the program too.
I'm excited about our recruiting class. It's been a good recruiting class in that we've really covered up or really got some of the needs that I want to address. And I'm a speed kind of coach and a run, and that's really not what we're about this year. And so as a coach, we'll take our strengths and use them. But I'm excited about bringing in a lot of speed, and we've got a lot of speed coming in next year that is going to create a lot more problems for other teams to deal with. And so that's kind of been our focus, is really to improve the speed of our team overall and bring a lot of athleticism with kids. And so we've got kids that can do multiple things. And then we're really working on that pitching staff to put kids around Camry Moore and really develop an entire staff that works well for us.